There are three types of alveolar cell. Type 1 alveolar cell is simple squamous epithelium. It helps in gaseous exchange. Type 2 alveolar cell is the pneumocyte which release the surfactant, and type 3 alveolar macrophage which involve in phagocytosis. Another question may come: why infections are more common in right lung than the left? The right principal bronchus is shorter, wider, and more vertical than the left principal bronchus. Inhaled particles therefore tend to pass more frequently to the right lung. So, infections are more common in right lung than the left. Another important topics for written exam is the mediastinum. The mediastinum is the median septum between the thorax between septum of thorax between the two lungs. Division: it is divided into superior and inferior mediastinum. Superior and inferior mediastinum by an imaginary plane passing through the lower border of the fourth thoracic vertebra posteriorly and sternal angle anteriorly. This is the sternal angle and at the level of lower border of the fourth thoracic vertebra. Mediastinum is the median septum of thorax between two lungs. It divided into superior and inferior mediastinum by an imaginary plane passing through the lower border of the sternum, manubrium sterni or sternal angle to the lower border of the fourth thoracic vertebra. This is an imaginary plane which divides the superior mediastinum from the inferior mediastinum. Inferior mediastinum also subdivided into anterior mediastinum, then middle mediastinum and posterior mediastinum. For written exam, posterior mediastinum is most important. Boundary and content of the posterior mediastinum. Boundary is anteriorly pericardium, bifurcation of trachea, pulmonary vessel and posterior part of the upper surface of the diaphragm. Posteriorly lower 8 thoracic vertebra and intervertebral disc on each side mediastinal pleura. This is the boundary of the posterior mediastinum. What are the contents of posterior mediastinum? Posterior mediastinum contain descending aorta, azygous vein, esophagus, thoracic duct, sympathetic trunk, vagus nerve. These are the content of the posterior mediastinum. And this is the diagram for the content of posterior mediastinum. Heart. The heart is hollow conical muscular organ situated in the middle mediastinum and covered by pericardium. It consists of four chambers: right and left atrium, right and left ventricle. The atria are separated from each other by interatrial septum and the ventricle by interventricular septum. The atria are separated from the ventricle by atrioventricular septum. Heart covered by pericardium. It has two layers. Outer is the fibrous layer and inner is the serous. The serous pericardium also divided into two layers: outer parietal layer and inner visceral layer, which invades the entire heart. The heart presents four chambers: right and left ventricle, which is separated by interventricular septum, anteriorly anterior interventricular septum and posteriorly posterior interventricular septum, and two atria. Left atrium there is opening of the four pulmonary vein, and right atrium there is opening of the superior and inferior vena cava. Two atria are separated by interatrial groove. Atrium separated from the ventricle by atrioventricular groove or coronary sulcus. The great vessels are pulmonary trunk, ascending aorta, arch of aorta, superior vena cava and inferior vena cava. Heart present following features. This is the apex, base, sternocostal surface, diaphragmatic surface, there is the left surface, and border are left border. This is the right border which extend from opening of superior vena cava to opening of inferior vena cava, and left border extend from the left auricle to the apex of the heart. This is the inferior border which extend from the opening of the inferior vena cava to the apex of the heart. Base or posterior surface is the most fixed part of the heart. It is directed upwards, backwards, and to the right. The base is formed by the two atrium, two-thirds by left atrium and one-third by right atrium. Boundary of the base are above bifurcation of pulmonary trunk separated by transverse pericardial sinus, below posterior part of the atrioventricular groove or coronary sulcus containing coronary sinus, and anastomosis of the right and left coronary artery. Right side, right border of the right atrium extending from superior to inferior vena cava. Left side, left border of the left atrium extending from upper to the lower left pulmonary vein. Vertebral level of the base is the in supine position. Base lies opposite the body of the fifth to eighth thoracic vertebra, and in standing position it lies opposite 6 to 9 thoracic vertebra. Relation of the base, oblique sinus, posterior part of the fibrous pericardium, right pair of pulmonary vein, right and left bronchi, esophagus with plexus of nerves, descending thoracic aorta, thoracic duct, azygous and hemiazygous vein. These are the structure related with the base of the heart. This is most important question in written exam. Describe the interior of the right atrium. Right atrium extend from opening of superior vena cava to opening of inferior vena cava. Section of the right atrium presents. The interior right atrium consists of anterior rough part or atrium proper and the posterior smooth part known as sinus venerum. These two parts are separated by a smooth muscular ridge, the crista terminalis. The interior of right atrium consists of anterior rough part or atrium proper and smooth part, posterior part known as sinus venerum. These two parts are separated by a smooth muscular ridge, the crista terminalis. Sinus venerum present following features: opening of superior vena cava, opening of inferior vena cava, opening of the coronary sinus, foramina venerum minimarum. This is the diagram of the interior of right atrium. Atrium proper lies in front of crista terminalis and following features: crista terminalis, musculi pectinity. For this musculi pectinity or muscular ridges, the rough part is rough. Fossa ovalis, an oval depression above and to the left of the opening of the inferior vena cava. Limbus fossa ovalis, sickle shape, sharp margin surrounding the fossa ovalis. This is the fossa ovalis and this is the limbus fossa ovalis. Structures of the heart. It consists of three coats from outside inwards. Epicardium. It is derived from visceral layer of serous pericardium which invests the entire heart. Myocardium consists of cardiac muscle fiber, are cross-striated, nuclei are centrally placed, branch and intercommunicate with the adjacent fibers, and intercalated discs are present, which we seen under the microscope. Endocardium, it consists of single layer of flattened cells which lines the interior of the heart, are continuous with the lining of the blood vessel. The endocardium thrown into folds to form the bulbs of the heart. These are the simple squamous epithelium. This question is frequently asked in the Viva. What are the layers of the heart? And you have to know the epicardium. Meaning of the epicardium is visceral layer of the serous pericardium which invests the entire heart. Myocardium is the cardiac muscle. Endocardium is the inner lining of the